What is up, boys? Happy to be back for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. Catch us on all major audio streaming platforms, youtube.com, all major social media platforms, and, of course, at the mothership, bgobsession.com. Please come by, free to sign up, free to play, free to hang out, mix it up, old school message board style, with very little moderation, by the way. So come hang out. Anyways, fellas, we took a week off. Free agency, the first week of free agency, we had a lot to talk about. A couple big moves to talk about, and a lot of speculation. A lot of changes that happened after the fact. Some more finalized deals and finished moves after our last podcast. John, you said you had a list of them.
Yeah, so we talked about the rush, like day one signings the last time. The guys that we did not, and it's kind of weird, man. To me, it was kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of a thing where it's like everyone was freaking the hell out the first day.
Oh yeah, it's always how it is. We'll lose our mind.
And then as free agency has progressed, we've signed some really good players, and it's kind of calmed a lot down. So, which that's probably a pretty normal thing for every NFL fan base. But these are the guys that were not signed the last time we talked. And we're not breaking any news here. But Rashad White, running back, Clavon Chasen, I'm probably butchering his name, and he's a defensive end / edge rusher. Chiga Okonkwo, one I'm excited about, a tight end. Nick Cross, a safety. Diami Brown, who we all know, at wide receiver, coming back. Van Jefferson, some more wide receiver depth. Charles Omenihu, that's another big one there, defensive end and edge rush help. Jerome Ford, who's kind of a depth signing at running back. And then Foster Sarrell, who's an offensive lineman. That guy's probably camp fodder. But, he's an offensive lineman, so who knows? So those were kind of the ones that I don't think we talked about last time. Anyway.
I don't think we talked about Tim Settle last time either, right? Did we?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
I guess if I was going to hone in on one thing that I feel like the obvious place we upgraded the most is we started, we had some guys last year that were doing a decent job with the pass rush, but they got hurt. And then we had no pass rush for the most part. And I feel like we've really upgraded that unit with Owe and Jason and Omenihu. That is like, we went from, and the guys that are coming back off injury. I really feel like we're going to have a legit NFL pass rush this year, and for the first time. And I don't know when the last time we had a legit NFL pass rush was.
Yeah, I think it goes back to in the past we've had studs, like a standout guy, but it seems like it's not layered at all behind that. I think they tried it with Arakpo and Kerrigan there for a cup of coffee, and it didn't work out. But now you look at it, and it looks like we've got 5 or 6 legitimate defensive ends. So, there would be constant rotation. It's going to be very situational. Last year, Our team leader in sacks was Von Miller. We're signing Preston Smith off the street, and he's out there getting meaningful minutes within 10 days of when he signs his contract. So you hope that with the guys you mentioned, plus we brought back Dietrich Weiss, we brought back Drake Jackson, who I'm curious about because he came off an injury. I think he kind of got left alone. John Baptiste, Dorrance Armstrong. Suddenly this room, that position group got very crowded. You know what I mean? And now it's going to be some serious. You're going to start to look around and see who's the odd man out now. Like, is John Baptiste the odd man out? Does it end up that one of those other guys that we thought was like a premium starter last year is now going to be on the bubble coming out of camp? So I don't think we have that elite. Obviously, we don't have that elite.
Yeah.
Guy, but I think we're going to have a lot more versatility and depth there and strength throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, so maybe like what the Seahawks do and some other teams do, you just throw waves of people and rotate different guys in and out without having the one mega star defensive end. And then I some interview with Chenault also can blitz, and then they can still move Luvu around and blitz too. So
Yep.
what kind of?
I think the other trend that we continued, in the second wave of free agency was, we talked last time about it, that they got younger, they got faster, and the guys that they signed, I think the only guy that they signed so far that has any kind of major injury history is, let's see who it was. Amenahu tore his ACL last January, which, I mean, that can happen to any player. But really, other than that, most of these guys have been playing like without having to miss time for most of their careers. So I definitely think that was like an intentional thing after last season. And just as an example of the getting younger and faster thing, Nick Cross, we signed him to a 2-year deal. That guy runs a 4.34 40, and that's pretty freaking fast for a guy who's playing safety. I mean, that's like a cornerback. That's not a safety 40. And he's only 24 years old. I mean, now I don't know how great of a safety he is. He played strong safety for the Colts, I believe. And I know he's a pretty good blitz guy, and he's also pretty good against the run. But I just love the fact that we're getting younger and we're getting faster, and we're not signing a bunch of guys with like a massive injury history like Lattimore, which bit us in the ass in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Who, Tony, of the guys that we mentioned that we didn't talk about last time, is there anyone that you're like super excited about?
Honestly, the tight end from the Titans that we picked up, because we definitely have a glaring need there, and he's still younger, and we don't even know how great he was because he had like Mr. Mayo throwing him the ball and like janky quarterbacks in the Titans, so he could be even better with a good quarterback. So that's one I'm excited to see.
And we got him for 3 years. So and he can catch the ball and run block. I don't think he's much of a red zone guy, so we still don't really have that guy on the like. He's not Zach Ertz in the red zone, but I mean, I think he is a badass. I just love that.
Yeah, and we got blockers, so if he's the receiving guy, that's fine because we have guys to just come in and obviously block.
Plus, he is a rack monster. He made a lot of his chops with the ball in his hands, not downfield catching it, which somebody put a side by side with like Ertz average rack per catch was like 1.8 and his is like 6.7 or something. It's like absurd how much more he does with the ball in his hands, and he can break tackles and he's fast. I mean, he's not Kyle Pitts fast, but he's fast. He's faster than what is a typical tight end, you know what I mean? If I'm not mistaken, was it? Oh, no, I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah, and I think they used him on the outside. They bring him inside. I've seen some tape of him. He's kind of one of those guys that you can put him anywhere and he's competent. So that's the one I'm most excited about as well.
Yeah. He's 6'2.5", 238. He runs a 4.52. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's the same height. He's 25 pounds heavier, and he runs the same 40 as the famous or the most popular wide receiver on the board right now, Jawan Jennings.
Wow. Yeah. So I think the other thing that jumped out at me is, I was surprised that we didn't go after a running back a little more, aggressively. Maybe we're crossing our fingers for somebody in the first round. I don't know. But, Rachaad White, that guy's no slouch. I mean, he is older, and like in 2023, he had 1,539 yards. That was just 2 seasons ago. And he can catch the ball. That was the point I was trying to make, is that he's not Austin Eckler, but he's pretty damn good as a pass catcher. And the other guy,
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford also can catch the ball. So I like that we're bringing in guys where they don't know whether we're running or passing, and Jaden's under center, and we have a lot of options. So
And for
I still
backs,
think we need a running
good.
back though.
Yeah,
I don't think we're
for
done at
depth
running.
guys. They'll come in and they're fine. They're pretty good pickups for that role. And then we bring back McNichols too.
Yeah, we brought in McNichols back on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
So I think what that boils down to is if we go into this season with this running back room, I don't think anybody's looking at it problematically. But if you have an opportunity to upgrade it, you're also not bound, and you know what I mean. Like you can do that. Like, and I'm not even just saying Jeremiah Love in the first. If there's a third rounder or a fifth rounder that they absolutely love that ends up being there, and that guy can come in and impress in camp, you've got flexibility. But if you don't find that, you look at that room a lot differently than you look at our wide receiver room, right? Like that room, it's not set, but it also isn't something that you're like, we got to figure this thing out.
I think I've heard a couple people kind of allude to this. And my thing about free agency is always like come away with 2 starters. If you come away with 2 major starters, you're doing pretty good in free agency. And I think we did that. I also think part of especially where we're at pick 7, where we really can't predict we can probably predict like of the 7 guys who are not a quarterback that we would be most interested in. We're guaranteed that 3 of them are going to be there at pick 7, right? Or something like that. We're gonna have a choice of somebody that's good, but we just can't really predict. At least we can't who it's going to be. So I think it allows us to, because we filled some needs in free agency, it allows us to not feel like we got to take a wide receiver. Well, I guess you could still argue we got to take a wide receiver because we really don't. That's one thing we have not really adequately addressed. That's probably the only position I feel like that we have a glaring hole at right now. But I think we did enough in free agency so far that we don't have to take an edge rusher if we don't think one of those guys is, that the answer. We could even take, if Love is there and they think he's that good, they could take running back. They could take, really almost anything.
Yeah, just take the best player. Yeah.
So that's kind of nice because I think that's kind of the trap that you fall into because everyone says best player available, but if you don't have a corner, you don't have let's say they're giving up on San Ristel for some reason. Well, then that put you just under so much pressure to grab the best corner in the draft there, whether he's the best player or not.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think we'll have that problem.
Yeah, I think this so far they've definitely raised the floor of the team, and I feel like I say that every year, but the floor has been absolutely brought up. The ceiling has gone up, though. I will say that unlike in years past, especially with the multi-year deals, there are a handful of 1-year deals, but they're not living on 1-year deals. As you point, Chigakwankwe is a multi-year deal. Adafe Owe is a multi-year deal. Tim Settle's a multi-year. Leo Chenal's multi-year. Nick Cross 2 years. Amik Robertson 2 years. So you've got a little bit more stability there of the roster development going into next year.
I would say
a little bit.
It's like only in Washington is a 2-year deal, a multi-year deal, but it is.
But if you look at what I mean. But the other point to that is that all of these guys are under 30. You know what I mean? So you're assigning them to a 2-year deal with the idea that Nick Cross shows up this year.
Yeah,
he's already in the building for another year, and then you can put another 2 years on the back end of that deal or something like that.
I think the other thing, like we talked about how maybe the uncertainty of the coaching staff, maybe the idea at least that Quinn could be under the hot seat and we got 2 new coordinators. So there's a little bit of like, is Washington really where I want to go long-term? I don't know if that played into any of the shorter deals like Chaisan. And I don't know if I'm butchering his name, so I apologize if I am. But we signed him for $11 million for 1 year. So, he's no slouch.
It's Kalavon Chaisan.
Chaisan had 12 and a half sacks over the last 2 years. So, he's a really good player. And Omenahu's a good player. We signed him for $7 million for a year. So you almost wonder, and he has 23 career sacks. The only thing about him is, and Peters knows him from San Francisco, but he's, he had the ACL. But other than that, but you wonder if maybe it was more the players in this free agency that were like, well, let's just do a year and then we'll revisit it. You know, if that was, it might not have been coming from Adam Peters as much as from the agent and the player. So I'm just throwing that out there. Who knows?
Yeah.
A couple more news and notes. Mariota back on a 1-year deal. I don't think that had happened the last time we talked. He was a name that was circled to be a backup quarterback opportunity. As Tony mentioned, Jeremy McNichols is back. Chris Paul's back on a 1-year deal. That was a guy that we weren't sure was going to walk out the door, but he's back on a 1-year deal. Treylon Burks is back. That happened before free agency started. The only other news is Jeremy Reeves with an additional extension. I think he signed 2 extensions this offseason. Am I crazy?
Oh, really? Wow.
I gotta say one thing about the Reeves. I really like Reeves. You know, I think he's a cool story. And he was talking about how at his press conference, he was talking about how, you know, he was like on the roster, off the roster, on the roster, off the roster. And then he finally like made it and, you know, went to the Pro Bowl and all that. And but he was just talking about, persevering and how, you know, he's just maintained that belief and, you know, and never felt like he was there yet and kept pushing through that. But there was a snarky comment on BGO that I kind of giggled at because it said basically that we let our starting center go for $8 million, but we signed a special teamer for $7 million. Like, how does that make any sense? And I don't know that, you know, I don't know that I totally sign off on that, but I thought it was it's not a bad point for those that like me that were like, what the hell did we do with Biotic and why did we do that? But
yeah, I think the Biotic conversation is still an incomplete one. It is still definitely. I don't think you can look at that and say it was the right move because, you know, we haven't seen it yet. So I'm with you as much as I've defended Peters and looked at that's still a head scratcher to me. You've created, you've not even if you've created a hole, even if you think Alec Reddy's a better option, let him beat him in camp. Like, I'm with you. And if he beats him in camp and you cut him in the preseason, then so be it. But like, what's the gain there? And maybe it's that they want. If you want to have the argument, oh, we were letting him get to free agency because he went and signed a 3-year, $30 million deal in LA. Okay, but at some point, you're here to win football games, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I just wonder if maybe they thought that maybe they were like super confident they were going to get Linderbaum. And that was like the whole plan was like, I still think they could have waited, you know, at least day one of free agency before they cut them loose. But I don't know. That's going to be one of those things where we either a year from now are going, those idiots, or we won't even talk about it ever again. It's
right. It'll fade into obscurity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of like when we traded Portis, you know, when we got Portis and let Champ Bailey go. It's kind of like at the time everyone was like, "Oh my God, are you insane? What are you doing?"
And then his first carry, Clinton Portis house calls it from about 62 yards out.
I was there. That was the first time I ever attended at FedEx. I went by myself. So that was fun. That was a good one.
I was at that game too. Well, we don't have to go too much deeper into this. We'll be getting into the draft pods here before too long, a little bit. But I am curious if you guys, now that free agency's kind of run its course as we head into the draft, it looks like we're going to be hosting a cornerback tomorrow for a visit. I don't know what that's going to mean.
Ohio. I think they went to Ohio, the whole gaggle.
Yeah, like everybody.
Oh, yeah, they were all. Yeah. No, I mean we're hosting a veteran corner tomorrow that we could potentially sign as a free agent. But yeah, the whole world, the entire front office was at the Ohio State Pro Day today.
Yeah.
Who's the corner? Did you say, Derek?
No, because now I can't find the post. Like 3 or 4 people were running with it. Huh?
I said it's Adi Jamal.
Yeah, really. Hang on, I'll find it. Hold on.
It's not Emmanuel Forbes. I know that. I'm pretty confident of that. I guess one question I still have is: you think they're letting our well-seasoned defensive captain go, or are we going to re-sign him for another year?
You talking about Wagner?
Yeah.
It's veteran cornerback Kello Witherspoon. He's in his 10th season. He actually was drafted by the Niners when Peters was there in like the 3rd round. He's had a stint with the Rams. I think he's gonna be a depth piece. I don't expect it to be some sort of a massive addition. You know what I mean? He's gonna be like, what's the guy's name, Johnson, last year that we'd signed? You know what I mean? He's like, all right, well, he's not a bad 4th or 5th corner. I think it's going to be kind of that. It's not going to be anything crazy.
That level type person.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Wagner goes, he hasn't signed anywhere. I've seen him. I saw a report maybe a week ago that he was linked to us, Dallas, and one other team. So I'd have him back if he wouldn't be my green dot 3-down starter anymore. He'd be a situational guy, but
yeah, I'm kind of on the let him go train, just because that's another roster spot we could put somebody in there to develop, or
that's true.
or keep a 7th rounder who has some talent, that we might otherwise have to ship off. I don't know, but I guess they're going to do what they're going to do. I just wonder, it's got to be hard if you're the GM or the head coach, I guess, or our new defensive coordinator. It's got to be hard to pull in a future Hall of Famer like that and say, "Hey, man, you're kind of washed. So we're only going to play you on obvious rushing downs, okay?" Yeah. That has to be that would be an intimidating as hell conversation.
Plus, he has a good attitude, and the guys rally around him. Like, he's like a good presence and everything. So it's not like he's like a head case kind of guy where you're like, whatever, we'll just let him go.
But he's also a hell of a competitor, so he's not exactly going to walk up to Dan Quinn and say, "Hey, bring me back for $8 million and let me sit on the bench and I'll be a tutor." You know what I mean? Like, or a mentor. That's just he's going to want to be out there. I get it.
Hey, I've watched too many Oscar De La Hoya beatdowns where everyone except Oscar knew it was time to hang it up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those guys never accept it. So it's kind of, I think sometimes you have to. Somebody's probably going to be having that conversation with them, like, "Hey, we really love you, but we're not going to be out."
Well, and that's what drives them too. That's why guys just disappear. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Well, who did I say? Who was the linebacker that just announced his retirement from the Buccaneers? Hold on. And I was like, what? He just announced his
David? Was it Levante David? Was it that guy?
Levante David. And I'm like, what? He hasn't been he just announced his retirement. What do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make sense. But that's going to be the kind of thing. Is Bobby Wagner like 2 years from now, and it'll be like Bobby Wagner officially retires from the NFL, and you're like, well,
okay. Some of those, I think a lot of those guys are rightfully worried about CTE, and they're worried they don't want to be like in their 60s. And Bobby Wagner's like, "I don't get the concussion. I give the concussion, son."
Right.
That's probably not an issue for him.
Well, that's basically what Cam Scatabo said last week. He had to come out and apologize. I don't know if you guys heard that. But he basically said CTE was just an excuse to not play football anymore or something.
Yeah.
He looks like someone who's going to have CTE.
When he's 27.
That sounds like something someone with CTE would say, as a matter of fact.
He probably lives there already.
Well, boys, I guess after that, is there any position that you would prefer we did? What it would like come out of this draft with? I guess I know it's take away best player available, because I think we all agree that at this point, like, we don't have a roster good enough that we can sit here and pick and choose. Like, I need horses. Give me the best player that's on the board, and we'll figure out a way to get them on the field and have them play. But if you had it your way, like, how would we look coming out of this? Like, what other pieces would we fill? And I'm not asking for specifics. You don't have to say first round running back, But do you still want to add another running back? Obviously, I think John's going to say wide receiver. It is like a definitive we've got to add. But what else do you need to see coming out of this draft, unless the cards completely fall the wrong way?
Yeah, I was going to be like John actually and say wide receiver. It seems like we need like another like higher level or guy with potential at wide receiver as a younger guy. But then at the same time, I actually saw like Santana Moss and them saying in Jaden's rookie year, it was just Terry and like the guys, it's like Noah Brown, Olamide, and like Diamond Brown again and Crowder. Like every week, it was just one of those guys would step up, and we kind of have that now. So like worst case scenario, if Jaden's healthy, you'll just have Terry and the boys again. But ideally, yeah, I hope we get like another receiver with high end talent to come in.
Yeah, I think also I think this is a good point, but I also think there's a difference between being like really solid and with Jaden throwing the ball and then being scary. And I think if we could get a true bookend for Terry, with a combo in the middle, and then some of the other guys we have, we could be scary good. I keep hearing that Allegretti's not been handed the center position. But my question is, okay, well then we haven't brought in anybody in free agency that competes. So I don't know what their plan is on that, but
well, to come back to the draft, I will say that there's been I've done some of my own research and I've done some reading up. There's a lot of depth at wide receiver, and there is a lot of depth at center in this draft. There's a couple guys in 5th and 6th rounds in this draft that could project as day one starters on some teams. So I'm wondering if they know that and they're looking at that and they're like, at worst, we bring in a guy and he's red shirts a year with Allegretti. And if we're right, he pushes him and he starts over him mid-season or even out of camp. I
can't imagine a scenario where we start a rookie center because that guy's calling a lot of protection schemes.
Right. And that was
and you've got a quarterback under center way more than he's ever
in a new
done.
offense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
So I don't know that I'm not really that doesn't really get me going but I mean I would have no problem if they draft one. I just don't see him starting. I don't know.
But taking a center in the 3rd or 4th round, and getting a premium guy with the understanding that Allegretti is going to be that guy that helps the transition, and then maybe week 10, 11, 12, he works his way into the starting lineup, and you might have your center for the next.
They could do that. Yeah.
The next decade, you know what I mean? Maybe if you look at that, then I think I still come back to I think it's still a gamble that you let Biotish walk because you could have done that with Biotish on the roster, but at the same time, maybe you come out of it and you're okay. So, but there's still a lot to happen between now and then.
I don't know as far as positions that we have glaring needs at other than the ones we talked about. I know a lot of people still aren't sold on our kicker, although, we kind of talked before about how we just have a history of jumping from kicker to kicker. And as soon as we cut one, they become all-stars. And then the guy that was a really good kicker at his previous stop comes to Washington and starts missing them. So it's kind of one of those things. So I don't know.
And I know it's such a cop-out. I know it is. But you start to look at and you say, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, does it have something to do with our stadium or our practice facility or something? Because at some point, you've got to start looking at the common denominator here when you have guys like Dustin Hopkins that are still kicking in the league and Riley Patterson and Joey Sly and Graham Gano, and these guys are still kicking in the NFL and they've gone through here, you know what I mean? And it's like, and the guy who hit the doinker, the one who has OCD. Zane Gonzalez. Zane Gonzalez was a perfectly fine NFL kicker before he got here, and he was a perfectly fine NFL kicker after he was here. But everybody wants to act like the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and it's like at some point you're going to have to accept 18 of 21 or 18 of 27 and missing two, or hitting 2 out of 5 from 50 or something, just because.
Yeah.
Not everybody's Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah. I guess that's a good thing, in terms of that. We kind of talked about how the talent pool was not where it needed to be in Washington. And I'm still not, we don't know the guys that we signed. We don't know how that's going to work out. We always assume the best because that keeps us, so we survive that way from season to season, hoping that all the signings that we think are good signings turn out to be good signings, but we don't really know that yet. But I guess it's good that we're not looking at the roster going, oh, we have holes all over the place. I still think the corner room is a little, I don't think the Meek Robertson, I'm not sure he's the answer, as small as he is, but so I still have some qualms about that. I don't know about the linebacking core, although I don't know how many linebackers we're going to play and how we're going to play them. So,
well, the corner room, I think you're putting a lot on Amos and Sanderstill. I think if Sanderstill plays like he did in 2025 or 2024, and if Amos can play like he did at times last year, I think you're okay. Mm-hmm. And I think Amik Robertson comes in, he's a good accent. And you have the pass rush.
Until somebody twists their ankle. That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, okay, now who?
Right.
Because we saw last season when guys had to come in, it wasn't good. It was.
Yeah, we had 31-year-old Anthony Hamilton out there showing up like an MVP in one game because,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I'm with you. You're putting a lot on those three guys. And that's one of the latest speculations is that we could take that kid out of LSU at number 7, the cornerback. But, which I think would surprise everybody if we went corner at 7, but who knows? You know what I mean? Like I don't think a lot of people had that on their bingo card a month ago. But to your point, John, it's funny that before free agency, I think you actually came out and said, man, I don't know. We have so many holes. I don't know where to start. And then 5 minutes ago, you just said, you look at the roster and we don't have so many holes that you really got to look at one thing and say, I don't like. So it is kind of, I have to give props to the front office. Now, of course, I think we could have hit a couple more, and for whatever reason, this is an argument you've made on the board multiple times, John, and I think you're absolutely right. We missed on some guys, and it wasn't because we didn't try. It's because they chose not to come here. How much different would we feel about this if Romeo Doubs had signed here? Just that one move. How much different would we feel about the wide receiver room? The Alec Pierce thing is kind of bananas. $29 million I think is an overpay for him. We offered 30 plus. People are saying, give him whatever it takes. No, you're not paying Alec Pierce $37 million. That's not right. It's irresponsible. But some of these other moves that we were apparently, if Linderbaum came here and if Dobbs came here, how much differently feel about this roster? You're talking about looking at this roster and saying, well, geez, you know what I mean? No, that's a whole different conversation.
The other thing that people don't think about, I'll tell you something. I found out this week, I'm getting ready to retire in 25 days. And I found out a couple weeks ago that 2 or 3 years ago, they increased my position salary range by $15. So I went from being at the top, literally maxed out on my salary, to I could have been making $15 more an hour. And no one informed me of that at any time. So, I'm on my way out, but it still pissed me off. And so where I'm going with that is it's fine to say, hey, pay whatever it takes to get Alex Pierce. But then you got Terry McLaurin sitting there on the other side, who you just renegotiated a deal with. You didn't even give him what he wanted, but now you're going to pay some guy that's never been in burgundy and gold. a massive contract that's way more than Terry's getting, or you just can't, so you can't just
never been in burgundy and gold, never caught more than 50 balls, never scored more than 10 touchdowns. You're talking, come on, and you want to pay him top 5 money?
And don't tell me that's not going to bother. That's not going to be in the back of McLaurin's head the whole season. I just think he's a human being.
The whole season, he's already shown once that he can willingly not show up to camp. You don't think he wouldn't do it again?
I just don't think
that's a good point too. Yeah,
those are the kind of things that we don't always think about.
100%.
Let's not create problems that we don't have currently.
Right.
But, yeah, you're right. I think they did a good job. I think, like I said, we started off kind of slow, but it takes time for these deals to get done. I think you can definitely say we totally revamped our pass rush.
Yeah,
we added some really good linebackers.
How much different do you feel with Leo Chanel in there? So now you're running Luvu, Chanel, and Jordan McGee out there. You've got Kane Madrano. I bet you we add at least another linebacker on some level, whether that be through the draft, if somebody there is early and it's the best pick, or as a veteran guy, and now you're running a relatively deep linebacker room where McGee can become a potential player instead of having to everybody putting all this pressure on him to be the next big thing. And it's no, let's let him progress and do what he needs to do and become a part of a defense instead of becoming the defense.
Yeah, and they're all fast, which you need in today's NFL.
Yeah,
you need speed. So,
and I think on offense, I think everyone's excited about Okonkwo, and we didn't get our wide receiver yet, but we got a really dynamic tight end. It's really powerful, dynamic tight end, which we haven't had. And I don't want to. We've had it, but we haven't had a guy like you said that can break tackles, and do something with the ball after the catch. I guess. I don't know if we're done at wide receiver or not. I guess it remains to be seen. And I don't think Debo's signed with anyone yet either, has he? Although it doesn't seem like
we have a lot. We have a lot of guys under contract, but there is a big time gap, I think, between your one and everybody else right now. So there's a lot of space that can be filled real quickly and make those guys that are under contract pretty expendable. I think we have 8 or 9 guys under contract right now, which seems crazy if you think about it, but it's wild when you actually run down the numbers.
So just this one thing I'm curious about is I beat on Dimey Brown when he was here the first time, frequently or whatever, but just because I feel like he's a really good, fast guy, athlete, but not a really great wide receiver. But he and Jaden seem to have some chemistry towards the end of his time here, almost to the point where I was surprised they let him go. They, let him walk, because I felt like there was something kind of going there. And it seems like Jaden was pretty excited that Dimey Brown was back. So maybe, who knows, man, maybe he'll turn a corner coming back.
Hey, he started to turn a corner. He had a couple big games, especially later I think he had a couple big catches against Detroit in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say the playoffs, he balled out, especially against.
He had a pretty solid playoff run.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was
so I'm with you, and you can look at this and you can say there's potential there that this could be a pretty potent wide receiver room, but it lacks a lot of confidence right now. Van Jefferson isn't a slouch. That guy was a quality football player coming out of Florida. He just got overshadowed by Puka Nacua and some of the other guys up there in L.A. De'Ami Brown, we had a lot of high hopes for, and he had some flashes. Treylon Burks was a first-round pick. But, as I say this, I'm talking myself into it, and that's where the true conversation begins is, it could be, but it hasn't yet, and these guys have all played meaningful NFL snaps.
None of us would bet our mortgage on who's going to be the starter outside on the other side of the field from Terry. That's not good. I don't care who you are. If you're not sure about who the second best wide receiver is. I don't know what they used to say. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback. I think that was like a Parcells. Now maybe Bill Belichick or Parcells maybe used to say that. If you've got two two starting quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback,
Yeah, but that's different with the wide receiver group, because there's wide receiver groups out there that you're 3 and 4 deep that you start that make offensive coordinators worry about what's going to happen. So
we're going to be doing draft pods with some of our draft experts from the board, and you will notice that I'm not going to be on that because I'm not a college football expert by any stretch. But I will. One thing I'll be listening to carefully is, because we are in such a desperate need for a starting wide receiver, is Carnell Tate worthy of like the number 7 pick if he's sitting there? Not that we want to draft for need or whatever, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether, I know Lemon is another guy that gets a lot of hype, but I just don't know.
Jordan Tyson is another guy that's been talked about, but now there's some other issues with his injuries that are scaring people.
Yeah, I just don't know.
So,
but look, I'm going to be honest with the research I've done. This wide receiver group in this draft is deep. There are names in the 3rd, 5th, and 7th round that I'm like, this guy reads like a first round pick. Like
wide receiver, I saw some stats that wide receiver is one of the most high bust position groups of any of the position groups in the draft.
See, that's not. Hold on, that's not fair. And I'll say, and the reason why I say that's not fair is because you play more wide receivers over the course of a game, season, and whatever than any other position on the field. So, like, there's more in the pool, right? Like, so the percentage is going to be higher, right? Like, Ohio State has how many wide receivers come out every year that are getting drafted? 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? The likelihood that 5 guys come out of one college are all premium successful players that's a lot to ask.
I get what you're saying, but I guess I have a little bit of PTSD on that front, because how many second round picks have we wasted on receivers that, like,
oh gosh, we don't want to talk about
that weren't in the NFL after 3 seasons, kind of a thing. We've done it
a lot.
How
many first round picks are the last 2 first round pick wide receivers we've taken flamed out? Josh Doxson and Jahan Dotson, but no relationship.
Yeah, well, I know it's a different group. It's a different front office. They're not going to pick Chase Young.
No, I know. I'm not saying they're going to mess up. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
It's a very common thing. First round wide receivers, like, but then again, hold on. But you also have to realize we took Jahan Dotson way early when there were better wide receivers still on the board that are still not busts. Yeah, so I think that comes back to who was making the pick more than the position.
Yeah. And we picked up one who didn't work out. Burks. I think he was a first round pick.
Right.
In Tennessee. So it just happens across the league.
It does.
Well, I just think it should make you pause a little bit to pick a wide receiver with a first round pick. You better be damn sure that the guy is who you think he is.
To be fair, Ohio State's going to have 14 players taken in the top 10 this year, just because everybody knows that, like, that's the way it's looking now. So those guys, I mean, they're just churning football bodies out of there. But
you know what's going to happen, man, because we're going to spend the whole rest of the time before the draft is 90% of the conversation is going to be focused on Love, Jeremiah Love, and Tate and other offensive players, and then we're going to pick Sonny Styles or
something like that. Yeah.
Well, if you look, if the Adam Peters has a type and they score high on the RAS score, the relative athletic score.
Welcome to Washington.
And Sonny Styles scores high. That guy is a physical freak, dude. That guy is a monster.
And he's got a cool name. I mean, come on.
He does. Styles, really?
Sonny Styles. I mean, come
on. Well, fellas, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after that we actually get the major draft pod going. We'll probably condense it down with a couple of new guests from board members, and then we'll do our mock draft where we actually run through a simulator and we actually pick as the board falls to us. Obviously, we don't invest a ton of expectation in it because it's a simulated draft, but it's still fun to go through it. And of who's available, we pick who we want. So we'll be putting that together. Usually we do that the week before the draft, so it can kind of simmer with the draft on that Thursday. What are you going to say, John?
I wanted to mention that we do a lot of great contests. That's probably one of the coolest things about bgobsession.com. We do a lot of contests. We give away some cool prizes to the folks that win that. But we have one called the On the Clock contest. There's plenty of time to join. All you got to do is join BGO, which is free. If you're a registered member, you can play the contest, and you're basically making predictions on who are we going to take in which round, and then we have a formula to figure out who got the most accurate prediction.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Brother Canadian Hog does it. It's not just you don't just have to hit the pick to be right. You get points if it's the right position. You get points if it's the right whatever's. So it is pretty cool. So it makes it a very eventful draft as you kind of follow along, almost like fantasy football. So it makes it fun. So, all right, fellas. Well, it's always a pleasure. If you made it this far, we owe you a drink. Thank you for hanging on. You can find us on all major audio platforms, all major socials, of course, at the mothership, bgobsession.com. And the pigs are out.